Howdy there, guys. So today I want to do another kind of more personal episode, and that is kind of asking myself the question, should I even be doing this? Should I be wasting my time doing this podcast, quote unquote, wasting my time? Is this the best way for me to spend my time? Is this like a futile endeavor? Because quite honestly, I do ask myself that a lot. And I want to make this clear. I love doing this. I love making these videos. I'm not a videographer. I'm not somebody who is really good at this. What I really enjoy is having deep conversations with people and sparking deep conversations with people. And this platform that I've basically created for myself is a way for me to do that. I have a lot of thoughts. And you know how like you're taking a shower in the morning and you got all these thoughts and you're like, man, I could write a book with all this. Sometimes people will say, and I'll say this myself, like I do my best thinking in the shower or in the car. I can't record myself in the shower. And I thought for a long time that I couldn't record myself in the car. But then I noticed some people doing it. There's a Lutheran pastor. I'm actually forgetting his name right now. He posts videos on YouTube, and he does just little theological, philosophical videos just while he's driving from place to place during his day. And I thought, hey, you know what? Like, I don't have the means, nor do I have the time right now to really sit down and make videos. But, I have a commute every day to work, to my job, and that might be a really good time where I could make a video or a podcast. And of course, as many of you know, what this endeavor started out was as simply podcasts, audio podcasts, because I really didn't know how to do the recording, and I thought that I'd have to do a bunch of editing and waste a ton of time on that. And like I've said, like time is incredibly precious to me. If I can do something to where it's gonna like maximize my time with my family in particular, then I'm going to do it. That's really why I work in a government job, because I have incredibly stable hours. I work 37 and a half hours every single week, and I know when I'm going in and when I'm getting off, and that affords me a lot of stability for my family and to be with my family. And if I can make a living doing something like that where I can have very stable hours, then I'm going to do that. Because primarily my primary vocation is as a husband and as a father. This podcast, this YouTube channel, it's something that I do for fun, because I love, like I said, deep discussions. And I love thinking, honestly. And this is a way that I can kind of not only have those thoughts benefit myself, but potentially others. And it seems like others are benefiting from it in one way or another. It's a very slow thing. I think right now I have 140 subscribers, and I've been doing this for about 11 months, so a little under a year. I have about 140 YouTube subscribers. I know that I have 72 Spotify subscribers, and then I have roughly, as of now, I've had about 4,000 views through YouTube, and I've had about 4,000 views on my podcast, at least through my hosting platform, which is Spotify. So it used to be Anchor, but now they've merged with Spotify. So I kind of want to make this video as a bearing of my own heart, as of like how this journey of creating this podcast has gone for me, what maybe I expected to happen, and what I'm surprised it hasn't happened so far. So I'm going to have to edit this part out because I'm on the highway for just a minute. Okay, so what did I expect to happen when I started this podcast? What did I expect to happen? And I guess I want to make some shout outs here because there were a number of people in my life who really inspired me to do this. Chief among them is Father Dan Koehl and Father Felicichia. They have hosted a podcast for about 3 years now called the Deus Vult, God Wills It, Deus Vult Podcast. So, and they are two priests in my diocese. They've both been friends of mine and my wife's for a long time. I've known Father Dan Koehl since high school, and I've known Father Felicichia since really since meeting my wife. And you know, they've become really, really good friends of mine and of my wife's, and we have kind of a nice circle of friends that I would consider them a part of. And so they started their podcast about 3 years ago, so around 2020. I believe it was during COVID. And I kind of saw like how they their podcast blossomed in a lot of ways. And I mean their podcast it's a Catholic culture podcast. And so they don't get like super duper heavy into a lot of the academic sort of topics. And that's good. And honestly, like it makes their podcast way more popular probably than mine will ever be. Because what I enjoy is talking about the really, really deep topics that most people maybe don't think about, don't want to think about, don't care about, and that's fine. And so because of that, you know, I knew I was inspired by my friends, and I knew that what I wanted to do was not what they were doing. I wanted to do something a little more nuanced and a little more precise, and I knew that would pose a lot of not really roadblocks, but just more challenges, I think, to the growth of a podcast. And then there was another thing also that poses challenges, and it's the obvious that I'm doing this show in my car. And so the quality of everything is not very good. The quality of the audio is not super great. The quality of the video is not super great, as compared to like if you're just sitting down in a room and you have a really nice microphone. So, you know, I've got a lot working against me in a lot of ways, and that's fine. And I knew that going into it. And I had read, like, particularly with podcasts, it's really hard to get people to know about your podcast, because the user base is not as large as, say, YouTube. People, for some reason or another, are not as interested in solely audio content as they are audio-visual content. And so it's generally a lot more difficult to gain a large amount of followers, even over a long period of time, when just doing a podcast over a YouTube channel. Okay, just because of the amount of reach that you can get is limited. All right, now if you do a podcast and a YouTube channel, your reach is, as far as I can tell, kind of maximized. The potential reach is maximized. And so I started off with just a podcast because I thought that's kind of all that I could do at the time. And then I learned some things, and about a month or two in, I started the YouTube channel. Although I didn't start doing videos consistently until really just a couple months ago. And since doing that, I have actually seen quite a boost in growth in the podcast. And that was actually, I kind of expected that to happen, only because people seem to be more interested in audio-visual content. And that's fine. So, but then when I was looking into starting a YouTube channel, basically what I found was that it can be much more difficult with a YouTube channel to gain traction than with a podcast. And I've kind of seen that, I think. with my podcast, I've pretty much stayed steady almost since the beginning, somewhere around 40 to 50 like consistent viewers on the podcast. And like honestly, like I know like in the overarching view of things, that's kind of pathetic. 40 to 50 viewers. But, you know, knowing the type of content I make and knowing the way in which I have to make it, namely in the car, and with all the problems that comes with that, I'm pretty happy with 40 to 50 consistent viewers. Now, of course, podcast viewers, audio viewers, listeners, really. Now, would I like to see more? Of course. You know, there is like always that desire. You fight that desire. Everybody does. The desire for affirmation. And, you know, I'm attempting to be a virtuous person. Okay. And so it is a struggle to fight with those ambitions, really, to fight with the ambitions. Not that they're bad. Allowing them to be a distraction from what really matters in life is a battle for me. I would be lying to you if I wouldn't say that this podcast and this YouTube channel takes up a lot of my mental space. Because it does. It takes up a lot of my mental space. It's something that I love. It's something that I'm passionate about. And I think in a real way, I find, or I desire to find, some of my worth in this podcast and YouTube channel. And I know that that's slightly problematic, to find my worth in something that I'm doing, okay, instead of something that I am. Because everybody, we should all find our worth in what we are, not what we do. And what we are primarily, infinitely valued beings, because we have a creator who is infinite and values us with his infinite love and his infinite value, okay? And that makes us infinitely valuable, and it makes us, that's precisely what human dignity is. Now, I think one can argue, and I've had conversations with atheists and things, I think one can still argue that human dignity is real from an atheistic point of view, okay? But not to go down that rabbit hole. So I do desire to be affirmed through this podcast. That is something that I desire. Is it something that I should desire? That's kind of an interesting question. I think on the one hand, yes, and on the other hand, no. And it just depends on exactly what I'm hoping to get out of it. If I'm trying to find all of my fulfillment in this podcast and this YouTube channel, then that's a huge issue, right? That's a really big issue. And I think even if I'm trying to find not all of my value, but a significant amount of my value, that's also a big issue. But am I supposed to like somehow try to deny all those feelings and say that they're bad and say that like I should find no value through this? I think that that's not entirely correct either. I think that that's not really looking at reality and looking at how humans work and looking at how I work. I think I'm going to end up having to fight these desires for affirmation for, the entire time that I do this content making and well past it. Whenever I end it, we're always continually desiring to be affirmed. And that's just something that we want inherently as human beings. Now, the struggle, like I've said, is just making sure that we are attempting to find that affirmation in a proportionate way to reality. Okay. Like ultimately my value I should try to find my value in my relationship with God ultimately, right? I know that rationally. Now actually doing that is a different task, but and then after that I should find it in my primary relationships, the relationships with my wife, my children, my parents, my siblings, my friends. Okay, those should be the first people that I attempt to find value in, and then it's the acquaintances, the coworkers, things like that. The people that are actually physically in my life should take pride of place instead of those that I reach through other means. Whether that's through more old-timey ways like letter writing or book writing or whatever might have you, or it's through more novel ways like content creation through video and audio means. Those kind of more distant types of relationships need to be put in their proper place. And and honestly, I fight with that, and we all fight with that. And I would be lying to you if I said that I didn't fight with it. So that's why I really want to bare my heart in this episode is to kind of give you an insight into, like, maybe there's one person out there who's asking, like, asking themselves, should I do something like what Parker's doing? And I think that's a discernment that needs to be made, but ultimately you can't get stuck in just waffling in the discernment. You eventually have to make a choice, right? And I think that, I think it ultimately depends on whether you actually enjoy doing the thing in and of itself. Like, do you enjoy making the content in and of itself, and you would do it even if no one listens? Because that's really where I'm at. Is I'm going to continue doing this insofar as I can, even if no one listens. I literally don't care. I don't care. In the one hand, I do, right? I desire affirmation. But on the other hand, like, I enjoy doing this because I enjoy thinking about these things, about this content that I make. Like, I enjoy making the content that I make. I enjoy, this might sound really convoluted and like narcissistic, but I think if you think a little deeper, it's not. I enjoy listening to my own content sometimes because in a certain way, I feel that the words that I speak, and this is going to sound incredibly convoluted and prideful, but if it's taken in the right way, it's not. I think that the words that I speak are not coming fully from myself. Most of it, just on a human level. I'm not going to say that anything that I spew out is from God, because I don't know that. But most of what I relay to you guys through this podcast is from things that I've gleaned from other people. Okay? And from books that I've read, from videos I've watched, from podcasts I've listened to, from classes I've taken, what have you, all the different means that we glean information. That is what has made my mind work in the way that it does and convey the information that I convey to you through this means. And so it's almost like a journal, like for me. That's really what this podcast is. It's like an audio-visual journal for me of like, okay, what things have I learned? How have I digested it? And can I go back to it and try to jog my memory? That's really what I'm attempting to do when I, in this sort of convoluted way, listen to my own podcast. That is really ultimately what I'm attempting to do. So, I don't know. That's kind of it, guys. Like, that's the bearing of my heart here. Do I desire the podcast and the YouTube channel to grow? Sure, I do, of course. But at the same time, like, I do this because I love it. And that's really it. So if you enjoy it, please support me. Please subscribe. Please like videos. Please share this content with other people who you think might value from it. But I'm not doing this because I want to gain 1 billion subscribers and whatever and make money off of it. If people want to support me monetarily, they can. I have everything set up for that. You can go to the support page on my website, CatholicismInTheCar.com. Plug. Sorry. But I have nobody supporting me monetarily at the moment, and that's fine. I don't do this for that. I have everything open so that if people would like to, they can. But I'm not expecting it in any sort of a way. So anyway, that's kind of it. Yeah. I want to thank all my viewers. The few of you relatively that are out there, I want to thank you because it means an immense amount to me, especially when I hear from you, either in a comment or you email me or on Facebook, like, it means a lot to know that I'm not just talking to a wall, okay? Like I said, even if I had no viewers, I would still do it because this is like a journal for me. But it is nice to have that affirmation, and I want to thank you for that. And I also want to thank my detractors, the people who really don't like what I'm doing and think it's stupid, and because there are those people out there who think that what I'm doing is really dumb, and that's fine. You can have that opinion. I don't care. And I almost value your opinion over the people that affirm me, only because I seek to convince you otherwise. And I appreciate those people who disagree with what I'm doing and still watch what I'm doing. That always never ceases to amaze me, and it shows a certain amount of beauty in the way that those individuals work. But anyway, yeah, this is basically it. So, thanks, guys.